favorite scenes in the film. It was one of my favorite scenes to shoot, and I love it because Mark Abraham, our director, he had such compassion for both characters in that moment, that there really is nowhere else to go but to tell the truth to each other. They're neither of them are in an easy place, and they're sat there at the end of that dock in a unforeseen situation, and so what I love about his writing in that moment is that they find humor in it, even in a sad place. They find a way to connect and tell the truth to each other, and I think it's a hugely generous thing he did to play it in one shot. It doesn't cut away to close-ups. It exists in a two-shot, and it was such a pleasure playing it with Ren. She's such an amazing scene partner, and we were right there together, and I watched that back, and it brings back a very happy memory for me.
An amazing scene. We're going to take a couple of questions in just one moment, but I just want to bring up and ask you this point about Hank. People forget that Hank Williams was sort of the first musical star to die of his own hand, essentially, to die of his vices. Essentially, alcoholism killed him. Prior to that, Benny Goodman had died and George Gershwin, but it wasn't essentially by their own vices, and that was part of his iconic status and part of his tragic story, right?
Yeah, it's interesting because I think Hank Williams is now frozen in time in this moment, and we have no image of him as an older man, and we have no knowledge of what his music would have been like in his seniority. And it's so interesting how he casts such a long shadow, because there's something so honest about the moment that he caught, so youthful and so energetic, that never matured, and I find it very tragic, because there's a conversation to be had about, is it necessary to create great art to live at a particular pitch of intensity which destroys you? And there are so many musicians who have burned twice as bright and not for long. It's a terrifying list, really. Janis Joplin, Amy Winehouse, Jim Morrison, Jimi Hendrix, and it extends into James Dean and Marilyn Monroe and Heath Ledger, people who left us too soon. And I just find it very sad. I wish we'd known the Hank Williams that wrote music into to later in life. I wish we'd seen that person.
Amazing to think about what the changes of the 50s and 60s would have done for Hank Williams, who dies before that hits an American culture.
You compare Hank to someone like Bob Dylan, and Bob Dylan has gone on record time and time again, and said that he wouldn't have become a folk musician without Hank Williams. And Bob Dylan's still cutting tracks today, still writing new material, and it's such a shame that we never got to see that side of Hank.
I'll take some questions now. Anybody?